हरि ओम। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः। समस्तजन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Hari Om, salutations to all. Welcome to the talks on the great women of Bharat. Bharat is the land of knowledge. Bha means light, brilliance, effulgence. Rat means to revel in. So Bharat is the land where people revel in knowledge. And this knowledge is available to everybody. The Vedic vision we have to understand is that having got a human birth, that human birth is a very precious opportunity. And this human birth is very unique because it is in this human birth that we have self-awareness because of the buddhi, the intellect. And it is a special intellect, sharp and subtle intellect, which can discriminate between real and unreal, temporary, permanent, right and wrong, good and pleasant. So that capability is there with human beings. And the Vedic vision is that both men and women are endowed with the same buddhi. Gender may be different. So there are certain roles and certain things which obviously will be different in both biologically, but from the spiritual standpoint, they both are on par. And so Vedic vision is the vision of equality. Before I go into any specific examples and stories of the great Vedic seers, the women seers, a few things to understand are very important. What was the Vedic vision and what was the Vedic culture? That is very important to know. So as I said, the Vedic vision was that having got a human body, it is to realize the self is the main objective. In 84 lakh yonis, this is the only body where we can strive to realize the self. And you will see, I will give you some examples also, that how this self is realized in all the four stages of life: brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasa. And these examples are examples of women who have realized in each of the stages of life. Let me give it now, otherwise your mind is going to be stuck on that. So Vachaknavi Gargi, she realized it when she was in a brahmachari stage. Chudala realized it in the grihastha stage. Maitreyi realized in the vanaprastha avastha. And Sulabha Yogini realized in the sannyasa ashram. So the objective is to know the self. Because the Vedic knowledge is very clear, the body is perishable. Point one. In that body, there is the truth which is within, which is imperishable, which is inside, outside, everywhere. And that truth can be realized. In fact, many of the qualities required to realize the truth are all depicted in the feminine gender. And one of the most crucial ones in that is intuition. Self is known only through intuitive capability. When the mind and the intellect come together, that intuitiveness is called bhavana, where the dehatma bhav goes and one contemplates on the self. And hence, it is said that if at all comparison has to be done, there is no need to compare, but if at all a comparison has to be done, then women are more stronger and more capable to realize the self because their intuitive capabilities are much more developed. See, this is a Vedic vision I'm talking about. Any system we have to understand properly, the vision we have to understand. If it has degraded, that is because of human beings' selfishness and corruption and greed, desire to control. So this being the goal in the mind, a lot of things become very clear. That the objective, whether it's man or woman, the objective is to realize the self. That's the Vedic vision. And so we find that the birth of a boy or a girl also did not make a difference in the Vedic times. In fact, there is a portion in the Veda also which celebrates the birth of a daughter. There are special rituals mentioned. The Garbhopanishad mentions that what should one do to get a son, what should one do to get a daughter. And we don't see the condemnation of women happening in the Vedic culture. Because as I said, one point is that human body is a tool to realize the absolute. Point two is we should understand also the Vedic vision is not limited to one life. Vedic vision is till you don't realize the self, one will keep taking bodies. In every other yoni, only bhoga can happen. Only the exhaustion of one's karma can be done. Speeding up of evolution cannot happen. Only in human yoni it can happen. Manushya yoni, it's why it is called karma yoni. So one who is a male in this life can become female in the next life. So the point is not that the Vedic culture has a differentiation, because please remember, Vedas don't address the gender. As far as spiritual knowledge goes, it doesn't address the gender of the body, it addresses the mind. And we have to go beyond the attachment to the mind as well as the body identification. So from there we find that the Vedic vision is that bring up both of them equally in terms of opportunities. So in the Vedic times, the men and women, boys and girls, both had the same opportunity to study. Women were not deprived of knowledge. That is much unfortunate development later on. One of the mantras in the Atharva Ved Samhita also says that Brahmacharyena Kanya Yuvanam Vindate Patim. Atharva Veda 11.5.18. A girl attains a youth as a husband only after Brahmacharya Ashram. And by Brahmacharya Ashram, they meant Gurukul Sahavas and study. And you will find the examples also are there for it. So it's not just a quotation given. So they were studying, they were going, they were chanting the mantras, they were learning the mantras, they were staying in the Gurukul. And we also find that I'm just going to give you some little more examples. See about women and education. Some of the quotations I'm just going to share. Rig Veda 6.44.18 says, the government should ensure that all the boys and girls get a good education, follow brahmacharya and strengthen the society. Again, Rig Veda says, all girls should receive education from scholarly women, which means women were teachers also. They were Rishikas, they were Rishi Patnis, they were daughters of great rishis, they were Adhyapikas, And especially a word was coined for them, upadhyayas, the women who used to teach. Now, how will they teach if they have not learned? Again, Rig Veda 3.1.23 says, smart people should ensure that all boys and girls become scholars. Yajurveda 10.7 says the government should put special efforts to make all women into scholars. Yajurveda 20.85, a scholarly woman should ensure that she educates other women and makes them also scholars. Yajurveda 11.36, parents should ensure the good education of children, boys and girls, and then send them to scholars for a long period so that they enlighten the families and the nation like the sun. See such beautiful mantras given in the Vedas. Rig Veda, again 1.152.6, the way mother nourishes her children with milk, scholars should nourish girls and boys with knowledge. See so many examples, beautiful examples actually given here. Rig Veda 1.164.41 says the woman who masters and teaches all the Vedas brings bliss in the entire society. So they are even aware of this, the impact of women on the whole community, the family, the nation as such. So there is no question of the women being denied the knowledge. There are many such passages which are given here. Yajurveda 20.85, scholarly woman inspires us towards knowledge. She promotes the conduct of noble acts in the society. The scholarly woman purifies our lives with her intellect. Through her actions, she purifies our actions. Through her knowledge and action, she promotes virtue and efficient management of society. So many beautiful points and these mantras are given here. Rig Veda 7.96.3 says, O noble scholarly woman, bring only happiness in society. Make us knowledgeable and guide us like the mantras in Yajna. So this is one point to understand, that from knowledge standpoint, education standpoint, they were not discriminated. Knowledge was given to them. Gurukuls had provision for girls to study, boys to study. And coming to samskaras, many people even today think that women cannot be given Gayatri Mantra initiation, they cannot wear a Janevu, they can't chant Gayatri Mantra. Even today, unfortunately, people think that way. They can't do rituals. But that is all a degradation of our culture. What does the Vedic culture say? The Rig Veda 1.146.3 says very clearly, the Yajaman and his wife are the two cows, and the fire of the Yajna is the calf. Scholars perform Yajna with their wives and achieve bliss. The young woman approaches the fire with Havis. Rig Veda 7.1.6. Atharva Veda 3.28.6 says, O wife, you have entered the world of Yajna. Atharva Veda 114.2.25 says, O woman, perform Yajna with bliss. Now please remember, Yajna cannot be done unless there is a Janevu Samskar is done. They used to chant the Gayatri Mantra. Only sometimes when they want to conceive, then they would be said, don't chant any mantra, because mantra japa creates heat in the body. That is not helpful for conception. So at such times they are told, don't do that. But otherwise, there is no prohibition on women conducting rites and rituals, women participating in rites and rituals, getting educated. And so that is the Vedic vision as far as the education is concerned, the rituals are concerned. They would chant the mantras, they would do sadhanas, and they would teach it to others, to the members in their family. So you will find those examples also. They are very beautifully given, that how Vedic pathshalas also used to be there. People used to study together. Now, also we find that there are two special categories of women as far as education is concerned. Brahma Vidya is concerned specifically. Some are called Brahmavadinis, who commit their whole life to the spiritual pursuit, who remain unmarried. Or some of them, like we gave example, they go through Grahastha ashram and then become Brahmavadinis, where they dedicate themselves to pursuit of Brahman. So Brahmavadinis are those who exclusively pursue Brahma Vidya. They may choose to remain unmarried throughout and focus only on the realization of the self. They are called Brahmavadinis. So their education doesn't stop after the Brahmacharya ashram. They don't enter Grahastha ashram. Sadyovahas are the second category. They will enter the Grahastha ashram. And through performance of the duties in the Grahastha ashram, and as and when they feel they are ready for it, they may even renounce and they may realize the self. So these are two categories, Brahmavadinis and the Sadyovahas. And we find that the women also used to perform yajnas whether they are spouses or not. In fact, the word Dampati means that two people are required for the yajna to become complete. Both the male and the female, the husband and the wife are required for the yajna to be complete as a yajman when they do. And if the husband for some reason does not have the wife by his side, like we see in the Ramayana also, Bhagwan Ram makes a murti and the murti is kept next to him, because then only the ritual will give the proper result. So they say that this ritual has to be is the highest right of the woman. The Rig Veda says that the position of dignity was upheld by her participation in religious practices and sacrifices, which was regarded as the highest right and the privilege in the society of those days. That's a woman's right. The woman was entitled to all the samskaras or religious sacraments like men, and not only were religious prayers and sacrifices jointly offered by the husband and the wife, but see the privilege now. The wife alone could offer them in the absence of the husband. Husband's offering is not complete without the wife being there, or a symbolism or a symbolic presence of her being there. But a wife can offer without husband being there. And it is not said that something murti or something has to be created on his behalf. So the word Dampati literally etymologically means the joint owners of the house. They own together, meaning they walk the path together. So we find the Sadyovahas who continue their study till they get married, then they go into Grahastha ashram, perform the duties there, and nothing stops them from studying. Even after Grahastha ashram they enter. That is another point of the Vedic times. Very beautiful. And these Brahmavadinis, they would not marry, they would pursue full time. So some of those examples are Gargi, Vachaknavi. Gargi Vachaknavi is one. Vadava, Pratitheyi, Sulabha Maitreyi. These are some examples of Brahmavadini. Sulabha Maitreyi, after her marriage, I will tell her story. she becomes a Brahmavadini. Gargivachak Navi is a Brahmavadini from beginning. So this is as far as rituals are concerned, Vedic study is concerned, uh, the right of education is concerned. Then the Vedic knowledge also says that um, I'm giving examples of the women who have been doing rituals regularly. So Vishwavara sat with male Vedic priests in yajnas to chant mantras invoking deities, Rig Veda 5.28. For her, performing yajnas was her daily karma in life. In contrast, Vagambhrani chose the path of knowledge, Rig Veda 10.125. So Vagambhrani is another example of Brahmavadini, and Vishwavara is example of Sadyavaha. And what is written there? You see, sit with the male people and do the oblation offering. So this is their thinking. And great women who were great scholars, they were called by specific names. They are called Vidushis or Upadhyayas. Then we also find that they were also taking part in battle, which means they in the Gurukuls, they were also learning other subjects as per their temperament. So we find the example here that Mudgalani drove her husband Mudgal's chariot and fired a volley of arrows to help him recover cattle stolen by the dacoits. Rig Veda 10.102. When Rishika Vriddhimati's arm was severed, Ashwini Kumar, the twin physicians of the Devatas, joined it back. 10.39.8. Another example, in a battle, Vishwapala's leg was chopped off at the thigh. The Ashwini Kumars attached a prosthetic leg of iron with which she could walk normally. So the Vedic women, they stood shoulder to shoulder with their men folk in almost every field. See one more example. If fighting is dangerous, more dangerous is spying. Spying and acting as an ambassador, that also is given. Though it is conventionally, men who take up this, but women were doing it. Vedic women also chose these careers. Rishika, Sarama, Devashuni acted as a loyal ambassador and spy for Indra. Even old age did not deter them from continuing their study of the Shastras. So just like in Rig Veda, in Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda also, you will find the opportunities of equal education, work, choosing of a career of their choice. They also receive education in performing arts such as dance and music. Married women could take part even in intellectual pursuits. The Taittiriya Samhita 6.1.6.5 says that. Maitreyi attained a very high level of knowledge. That Maitreyi Samhita says that. Gargi, we know, her example is a Brahmavadini. Her example will come when the samvad between Gargi and Yajnavalkya happens. And many women also studied Purva Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa is the science of performing rituals. So the Vedic rites and Vedic yajnas. So this subject is very technical, very complex, and more difficult than even our mathematics. We may get, we may pull our hair sometimes with mathematics, but this is much more complicated than that. And they used to also, a scholar named Kashakritsna composed a work on Mimamsa called Kashakritsini. And those women scholars who specialize in this study of this book and master this book, meaning they mastered the science of rituals, which means they were even officiating as priests and doing the rituals, etc. They are designated as Kashakritsnas. Some of them studied Vedanta also. And we find even in the Puranas, in Bhagavatam, we find two Brahmavadinis, daughters of Daksha Prajapati, Swadha and Daksha Prajapati. They had two daughters, Dharini and Vayuna. They are Brahmavadinis who attain the knowledge of Brahman. So it is said that this was the Vedic vision of how they worked, how they conducted rituals, how they got education, and the whole idea was to realize the absolute self is the purpose. So the gender bias and gender discrimination is not encouraged in the Vedic times at all. In fact, if you see the Vedic times, I don't have much time today to explain in so much detail, but we also find that marriage, there is no question of child marriage happening at all. The Vedic quotations are very clear about the marriage of the woman only after attaining puberty and almost completing brahmacharya ashram. What happened is that they lowered the age of marriage. So almost 12 years they would be in Grihastha ashram, in brahmacharya ashram. So suppose by 5 years they get the Upanayana Samskar, they go to Gurukul and they stay at least for 12 years. So up to 17, 18, so they were studying, then they would get married. Slowly, one of the causes of degradation is where this marriageable age was brought down to 12, 13, and then further it came down at some point to 9 and 8, and then to 6. A lot of degradation started happening because of these things. One of the reasons is this. So in the Vedic times, the marriage was not done, child marriage is not allowed. Widow remarriage is very clearly given in the Vedas. There is no question of ill-treating the widows, and sati is not our pratha at all. It is a myth cooked up by people to make us feel low. There is no instance of sati in the Vedas. Even in the Mahabharata, there is only one instance, and that is also not called sati as we understand. That is Madri immolating herself by her choice because she felt responsible for the death of Pandu. And we also find that the word sati itself is a misnomer. Did sati die because Shivji was, Shivji died and she immolated herself on Shivji's pyre? No. That itself is a wrong concept. Sati immolated herself not because Shivji died, and nobody forced her to die, jump into the fire, or nobody pushed her into the fire. A lot of wrong notions have crept in, and we have been brainwashed in quite a lot of ways. So in the Vedic times, see here, what was permitted to a wife was not denied to a widow, and this is expressly mentioned in the Vedas. So we also find that the women had the choice to choose their own husband. Swayamvar is one example that we know from the Puranic times and the Itihasa time, but in the Vedic time they have written what is called as Samanasa. Samanasa is where the boys and girls of the marriageable age come together in a function, they meet each other, they try to understand each other, and they choose. That is called Samanasa. It's a program that is done. So they had a choice to choose their husband. And the woman was considered as the mistress of the house. She was considered as a Graha Lakshmi. This concept of dowry, etc., was not there in the Vedic times at all. So these are various things, very, very beautiful vision. What I wanted to say is that the Vedic vision of women and how they should live their life is a very beautiful vision, and one should come back to that state. See, there will be, wherever such high ideals and values are there, the general culture of that society is governed by these ideals and values. In every such situation, there will be some moral lapses because everybody is not at the same level. So there will be some moral lapses, there will be some issues. But on the whole, the general culture of the society was very respectful, and the equality was maintained, gender equality was maintained. And so we find that today, I'm just going to take a few examples now, having given you a brief background about the Vedic way of life. Now, some of the great Vedic women, see, the Vedic women, as I told you, they are either daughters of great rishis or wives of great rishis, or they are, independent rishikas to whom the great mantras have been revealed. So there is a list of many rishikas. I will put the document on our satsang group so you can see that list, which mantra is revealed to which rishika. There's a list of that. Like if I have to just read some, just to give you the example, so that you are just aware of this. And when people say that all this is why only men is always there, that is because we don't know, because we have not been made aware of our culture. There are lots of women to whom the mantras are revealed, and so women were chanting the Vedas also, and women were also doing to them the Vedic mantras were revealed also. They were doing rituals and everything. Where is that list? So now, this is the list of about 30 Vedic women to whom the mantras of the Rig Veda are revealed. See, some of them will be celestial beings and some of them will be in human form. So it's a combination of both. So like Ghosha. So to Ghosha, Rig Veda, mantra 10 and chapter 10, mantra 39 and 40. These are hymns. They are not just mantras. They are two beautiful hymns. They are revealed. Apala, 8.91.1 to 7. These mantras are revealed. Lopa Mudra, Rigveda 1.179, hymns 1 and 2. Like that, there is a list which is given. I will share it with you. Some people criticize that some of them are celestial beings. So what? Even if they are celestial beings, we should also know one more point. The Vedic time, the celestial beings were also on earth, not only in the heavens. That we have forgotten all those things, and we are reading the books and translations of scholars who have no idea of Vedic culture, who are sitting somewhere outside our country, and some of them are writing stuff and translations, and then we read all that, and then we get the Vedic times. And even in Puranic times you will find the Devatas used to be on earth also and up there also. They have a special loka, but they would be on earth also. In Kali Yuga, they are not there, found on the earth. That is the challenge of the Kali Yuga here. But if we see from the Vedic measure of time, and please don't go by history. What history we know is not even 5,000 years old. Archaeology itself is showing to us that human beings have been there for millions of years. What 1,000 years? They have been there for millions of years. The age of the universe is 13.2 billion years. Human beings have been there for much more longer. And what history do we know? Hardly some history we know. So we should not get confused, because when you see that list, you will find some of them, like Indrani is the name of the wife of Indra. So now these scholars will debate saying, oh, but she is wife of Indra, she is in heaven, she is not a woman on the earth. Array, what time are we talking about? Vedic times we are talking about. They were on the earth also. They had capabilities to go to the heaven also. Descend and ascend back, and they will be in the subtle form. So it's a combination of both. So that list I will share. Today, I want to just take few examples of the great Vedic women, the Brahmavadinis and Sadyavahas. Both, I'll give you both examples of how they realized, some of them, how they realized the truth. And some of them even were grihasthis. I like Sadyavahini is what I said. So Ghosha. So now Ghosha, she is the daughter of Kakshivat and granddaughter of Dirghatamas. And this Kakshivat King Kakshivat and Dirghatamas, sage Dirghatamas and the King Kakshivat. So they used to worship Ashwini Kumars. They are the royal physicians, two of them, Ashwini Kumars. And Ghosha has learned from them about the mantras to propitiate Ashwini Kumars, etc. She had leprosy. And so she was not able to marry. In lot of pain, could not marry, mentally also in pain, physically also in pain. So what does she do? She invokes these Ashwini Kumars. And there are two hymns in the 10th book of Rig Veda. These two hymns have 14 mantras put together. They are credited to her, they are revealed to her. So she sings and she invokes the Ashwini Kumars. The Ashwini Kumars come, they heal her, and finally she gets married, and she has a son called Sustya, who composes a hymn in the Rig Veda. So this is Ghosha. What her example shows: one, that she was learning the Vedas, she learned the stutis and the mantras, she knew how to invoke the Ashwini Kumars, and they cured her also. She got married, she had a child, and both of them are, the mother and the son, both of them are Vedic seers, the rishis, and Rishika and Rishi. Then we have Lopa Mudra. So Lopa Mudra is also called Kaushitaki or Varaprada. Two hymns are dedicated, two hymns are revealed to her in the Rig Veda. She is actually created by Agastya Muni, and Agastya Muni left her with King Vidarbha, who brought her up as his daughter. Agastya Muni created out of his tapobal. And finally, it is Agastya Muni who marries her also. And we find here that Agastya Muni was, after a point, he was engaged in his, austerities and tapasya and all that. And Lopamudra was feeling very left out and lonely. So Lopamudra gives an advice to Agastya Muni. You see that? Lopamudra discusses with him about his duties as a husband. And that's a part of Rig Veda. So many people keep saying, oh, only wife's duties are told to her. What about husband's duty? Here is one example in the Veda itself. Lopamudra is telling Agastya Rishi what is the duty of the husband, what he should do, how he should take care of the wife. Agastya Rishi also understands. He doesn't have a big ego issue. He understands. He also starts doing his duties. And after some time, they have a son, and the son's name is Dridhasyu, and he becomes a poet. She, with Agastya Muni, also is very responsible for spreading the glory of Lalita Sahasranam. And it is said that Lopamudra, the river Kaveri today, which is there, is a manifestation of this Rishika Lopamudra. Now see, why I'm giving the examples of these, because these are all Rishikas on earth. I am not giving you examples of the celestial beings, but these are historically documented, information is available about them. Even the scholars agree on this. There are many such women who are the Rishikas: Vishwara, Apala, Kathi, Kalapi, Kahavarchi, Godha, Romasha, Sulabha, Arundhati, Shiva, Vapuna, Shrimati, Vedavati, Dharini, Romasha I said, Siddha and Swadha. So we find like that there are many of these Rishikas to whom mantras are revealed and in different contexts. So these mantras are revealed not just about Brahman. These mantras can be about Grahastha life also, because Veda is a compilation of mantras for all different stages of life. Veda is like a full manual of life. So different things, whether it is knowledge, whether it is rituals, whether it is how to earn wealth, or how to have enjoyment, or how to get glorious, including certain things like how to control the minds of people, all those vidyas and black magic, and many of those things are there in the Veda. Because these are all there as a part of the creation, all this exists. So those mantras to different people at different times it is revealed. Now, one example we will see is of this glorious Brahmavadini called Vachaknavi Gargi. So she is the daughter of Vachaknu Rishi, and she is a Brahmavadini. She is in the lineage of Garga Rishi. She is wanting to realize Brahman. She is not interested in household life. Her father is very supportive. Now you see, this is another powerful thing to understand from the Vedic times. She wants to learn, father is fully supporting her, but after a point the mother says, enough now, stop her learning, better get her married. And the mother gives the example of Lopamudra, saying Lopamudra also, she was well educated, but she married Agastya Muni, and she also had worldly desires. So I want my daughter also to go in that way, let her marry, let her have children. But this Gargi is not interested in that. So what does Gargi do? She is pursuing her study. One day, they get the news that in the court of Janak Maharaj, there is a sabha where the discussion will happen on Brahman. Brahma Charcha will happen. So, in that, all great, well-known scholars of those times will all be coming there, and there will be debate. And whoever wins will be considered the greatest. Gargi is very excited because she also wants to take part in the debate. Now that's another point to understand. The freedom is not that women can't take part in debate. Vedic times, they were taking part in the debates. So the mother doesn't want Gargi to go to that debate. But Gargi wants to go because specifically she wants to debate with Yajnavalkya Rishi, because she has heard a lot about Yajnavalkya Rishi. So Gargi is very upset. Mother is not allowing to go. She goes to the father and says, Father, Ghosha had leprosy, and she invoked Ashwini Kumars because her roga was incurable. And Ashwini Kumars helped to cure her roga, her disease. I also have an incurable disease. I want to know Brahman. And I want to go to that Brahma Sabha where the Charcha on Brahman is going to happen. Till I don't go there, my mind will also not be at peace. I am also, feeling very sad. I am also afflicted. Father says, don't worry. I will take care of the mother, you go. See this, such a nice example. The father is encouraging the daughter, go. Even if the mother doesn't want her to go, he says, you go. And says, go secretly without your mother's permission. I will manage the rest, don't worry. So Gargi goes to that Sabha, and there in the Sabha, Janak Maharaj has announced that 1,000 cows, and on the horns, on each horn, there are 10 gold coins. So 2 horns per cow, 20 gold coins per cow, 1,000 such cows. He says, whoever is the greatest Brahmanishtha can claim this. Now, of all the scholars assembled there, nobody wants to get up there to say, I am the greatest Brahmanishta. But Yajnavalkya Rishi, immediately he gets up and he tells his disciple, Samshrava, that, oh Samshrava, take all the cows and go. So some of the people assembled there, they challenge him, saying, Ki, you have to prove you are the greatest Brahmanishta. How can you take the cows just like that? He very humbly, Yajnavalkya Rishi says, I surrender. That I am the dust of the lotus feet of any Brahmanishta who is assembled here. I have taken the cows because I am running an ashram and I'm teaching so many disciples. So I need the cows and I need the wealth. So I've told them to take. If anybody wants to debate against me, you are welcome. Some people try, nobody stands a chance. Then Gargi gets up. And Gargi says to Yajnavalkya Rishi, by the way, who is the Yajnavalkya Rishi? See, he is also called as Vajasani or Brahmarath or Devarath. He learned the Shad Darshanas from Uddalak Rishi, who gave the Tattvamasi Mahavakya to Shvetaketu. That great Rishi. From Uddalak Rishi, he learned Shad Darshan. Nyaya, Yoga, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Purva Mimamsa, Uttar Mimamsa. 6 Darshanas. He learned the Vedas from Vaishampayana Rishi. He learned yoga from Hiranyanabha Kaushal. He did Surya Upasana and attained Brahma Vidya. So he's actually an enlightened person. So Gargi gets up and she wants to debate. So she tells him that just like a young man who has stringed his bow and has 2 arrows, on the bow and is ready to shoot, I am like that young man. I want to shoot questions at you. 2 questions I will shoot at you. Please answer. So the first question she asks, now see, look at the freedom there. It is not that they are being demeaned, saying, oh, you are a woman, you can't ask questions, or how can a woman challenge a greatest Brahmanishta? None of that. Yajnavalkya Rishi is very happy to debate with Gargi, and Janak Maharaj and all people assembled there, they don't have any problem. So Gargi asks the question. First question he asks, first question she asks is, what is that which is above Swarga, below earth, between Swarga and earth, which is known past, present and future? So Yajnavalkya Rishi immediately replies, oh Devi, that is Akash, that is space. So Gargi is stumped. Then she asks the second question. What is that which is a support of this Akash? So she is asking, what is the support of Akash? See the question itself. We think space is outside. And everything is accommodated in space because avakashatvat akasha. Everything is accommodated in space. What accommodates space? That is her question. Even today, many scientists have debate about what is space. Even today, with all developments of science and technology. And Gargi has studied Veda and she's asking such questions. What is the support of space? Yajnavalkya Rishi is a Brahmagnani, so he straight away answers. He says, it is the Sat, it is that which is changeless, neither gross nor subtle, neither short nor long, not darkness nor light, not space, not air, not form, not shadow, not love, not attachment, not fire, not water, not 5 senses or the speech, or light or prana, not inside, not outside. Inside it there is nothing, beyond attachment, beyond detachment, It has no end and nobody can end it. It is beginningless, it is infinite, it is indestructible, and it is because of that indestructible Akshara Brahma, the sun, moon, stars are functioning, the mountain is steady, the rivers are flowing. And he says beautifully, who having got a human birth does not realize this Brahman is a Kripana, is a miser. And he who knows, having got this human birth, he who knows this Brahman alone is a Brahmana. How clear is the exposition? Who is a Brahmana? Not by birth. Who knows Brahman? Brahma janati iti Brahmana. So he says it is that Brahman. And who is that Brahman? Finally he says that Brahman is Atma in you and me. It is of the nature of Sat. That indestructible Sat is appearing as all these names and forms which are supported by space, and space is supported by this Sat, which is indestructible, imperishable, which remains. This Sat, I am, this remains even in deep sleep. Space is not there in deep sleep. So beautifully, Yajnavalkya Rishi, when he describes this, Gargi accepts her defeat, and everybody present there, Gargi says he is the greatest of the Brahmajnanis. We must all accept that and bow down to him. This is the Gargi, and this is in Vrihadaranyaka Upanishad, Gargi and Yajnavalkya Samvad. Beautiful it is. And Gargi is the one of the Navaratnas of the court of Janak Maharaj. We know Navaratna of Akbar, but we don't know that there's Navaratna in the court of Vikramaditya Raja also, and the Navaratnas were there in the court of Janak Maharaj also. And Gargi is one of the Navaratnas. And she's also the author of the Gargi Samhita. The sixth and the eighth Brahmana of Brihadaranyaka, they mention this. So these are great Vedic seers, Gargi, Vachaknavi Gargi, then Lopamudra, Ghosha, and one more is Maitreyi. So Maitreyi is married and then she becomes a Brahmavadini. So I've chosen different categories so that we just have a broad overview. Unfortunately, what has happened is a lot of our Vedic literature has got destroyed. So many things we don't know about. Just like with many rishis, we don't know many things about them. With many of these rishikas also, we don't have very detailed background. Because so many things have been lost over time. So Sulabha Maitreyi, she is the daughter of Mitra Rishi, and she is the niece of Gargi. So she obtained knowledge from her father. She studied, so the father has taught her, Mitra Rishi has taught her. And she is married to Yajnavalkya Rishi. Now Yajnavalkya Rishi had two wives, Katyayani and Maitreyi. And we saw Yajnavalkya Rishi, how great he was. So Katyayani bore him three sons, Chandrakant, Mahamegh and Vijay. After a point in time, Yajnavalkya Rishi decided, he was living as a grahasti, he was running the Gurukul, having the family, etc. At one point he decided, now enough, time to take sannyas. So he calls both his wives and he says that now the time has come, I have to take sannyas and pursue this knowledge full time. Now somebody may say, but he was already realized. See, he may have realized, but we also must understand that it is not necessary that just because the person is realized, the person may not have a desire to be away from the involvement in the world, because they have enough vairagya. That's how they have reached the state of realization. They may not need to do sadhana to realize the self anymore, but they are people who have so much vairagya that after a point they may say enough now. And you see, the conversation that happens is most beautiful. So he divides all his wealth he gives half to Katyayani and half to Maitreyi. Katyayani is devising plans of how to take away that half also from Maitreyi. But Maitreyi, she asks a very powerful question. She asks Yajnavalkya Rishi that, will this wealth lead me to immortality? Yajnavalkya Rishi says very clearly, Amritatvasya na asha asti vittena iti. You cannot get Amritattva with money. You can only become rich with money, and that's all. You will not be able to get the realization with any amount of money. Na karmana, na prajaya, na dhanena. Neither by any of these means one cannot realize. Then tyage naike, only by renunciation. So then she says, then it is poison for me. I don't want this. Give it. So Katyayani gets the whole thing. And Maitreyi goes with Yajnavalkya Rishi, renouncing everything, and they live. At that time, Yajnavalkya Rishi, the Upadesh he gives to Maitreyi is very beautiful. Where he says that a husband, see what he says is, Nava are patyuhu kamaya patihi priyo bhavati, atmanastu kamaya patihi priyo bhavati. He gives some more examples like that, and his conclusion is, atmanastu kamaya sarvam priyam bhavati. What does this mean here is this. A husband is not loved by the wife because of the husband. A husband is loved by the wife because of the wife. Then he gives example. As long as something gives us happiness, we love. When it doesn't give us happiness, then we no more love. Why? Because we love ourselves the most. As long as we are happy, as long as the object is making us happy, we feel fine. If that object cannot make me happy, if the person cannot make me happy, then we don't have the same feelings anymore. So we love ourselves the most, and that itself proves that the nature of Brahman is Ananda. Because we will desire only what gives us Ananda. We don't desire anything which gives us Dukkha. And what we desire the most, we love the most, is our own true self. Hence he says, Atmava are drashtavyaha, shrotavyaha, mantavyaha, niridhyasitavyaha. Oh Maitreyi, this Atma, which is the dearest. Please remember, Atma here doesn't mean Jivatma, small little individuality. Atma here means the infinite truth. That infinite truth is the dearest, is the nature of Ananda. Raso vai saha rasagga hyevayam labdva anandi bhavati. Ko hyevanyat ka pranyat yadesha akasho anando nasyat. Who would live, who would breathe if their heart did not have Ananda? Taittiriya Upanishad says that. So to know that infinite Ananda is the goal of life. And how to know that? Drashtavyaha, shrotavyaha, mantavyaha, niridhyasitavyaha. One should realize this Atma. How? By Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasan. This is the Upadesh he gives to Maitreyi, and he says, by realization of this Atma, what will happen? You will realize the whole world. By realizing the Atma, the whole universe will be realized. And he gives an example there, that just as every part of a salt cube is salty, similarly this Atma is full of knowledge and bliss. And how to know this? By neti neti. By saying not this, meaning rejecting, I am not the gross body, I am not the subtle body, I am not the causal body. Reject the manifest and the unmanifest, the gross and the subtle. What remains is the infinite absolute truth. So Gargi understands this. This whole samvad is there again in Brihadaranyaka 2.4.14. So so both of them, they live as Vanaprasthis and they live with complete austerity, living in contemplation of the self, and Maitreyi comes to realize the absolute truth. And she also gains the he also teaches her the Shukla Yajurveda. He is the author of Shukla Yajurveda, Yajnavalkya Rishi, and he also wrote commentary on the Krishna Yajurveda. So they live a knowledge-oriented life. So these are few examples what I've given you, the broad Vedic vision we spoke about, and few examples of the great Vedic seers, and how the purpose in and through, whether they were married or they were not married, in and through, the whole purpose is to come to purify the mind and realize the absolute self. So that is where we stop for today, and tomorrow we will take up the great women from the Puranas, the Itihasas and the Puranas. Some of the examples we will take up. Anybody has any question, then you can raise your hand. I will try and answer what I can. My specialty is not this field. My specialty is the knowledge of Vedanta. But whatever I have studied from that, whatever I understand, if I can answer, I will answer. So if you have any questions, you can lift your hand. Yes. Please unmute.
Hari Om Swamiji.
Hari Om.
So how, I mean, this subject by itself was a very, very new and a very different subject. So as you rightly said, this may not be your forte. So what motivated you to talk about this? Because it was definitely very enlightening for us. But I would like to hear from you.
See, one thing is that when Puja Gurudev, he studied this Brahma Vidya from Taponji Maharaj and Swami Shivananji, he felt very inspired that this knowledge of the self must go to the masses. This knowledge of the self is the crux of the entire Veda. And as I said, the whole Vedic vision is to make the person realize this. But what happens also is that for people to understand this knowledge of the self, they must have a certain background, certain purity of mind, as well as certain clarity about our Vedas and about our Sanatan Dharma, the Vedic Dharma. So when Gurudev came down and he toured across the country, his plan was to take this knowledge across the whole country and of course to the whole world. But he was very concerned about the plight of our countrymen, and the degradation of the culture pained him a lot. That how much, just look at the Vedic vision, what we spoke today, and how much we have lost and how much exploitation has happened, how much suffering has happened. So he was very moved, saying ki what glorious things are there in our culture and where our countrymen are living in such ignorance. So his objective was converting Hindus to Hinduism, was one of his main objectives. Apart from giving knowledge of Vedanta, he wanted to empower the Hindus with the right vision of their scriptures. Because he also studied in a British school, and he had also learned many things about his country which made him feel low about his country. But when he went and he met the sadhus, Mahatmas, he also fought for the freedom of our country. He had a very different perspective and understanding of the whole country. When he toured across the country, he met people, he saw many things. Then he says, no, people need to be awakened. So one of his main objectives is to revive the Sanatan Dharma. Cultural revival, Hindu Renaissance is one of his very important part of his vision. And please remember one very important thing, Sanatan Dharma has been there for time immemorial. Unfortunately, today many people are going away from this, saying that no, this is all political. Some political parties may fight over it, may do certain things. That is their choice. That does not mean that culture has become political. The Veda is political. There's such treasures of knowledge, and if we live by Vedic vision, so many things in our life will become beautiful. So his vision was to revive Sanatan Dharma as a philosophy, as a way of life. How beautiful is the vision of life in the Vedas and how they lived. The vision of life, the view of life, and the way of life, both. What he saw was that the view of life which is given in the Vedas and the way of life of the Hindus was not matching. And so there's a lot of conflicts, confusions, and people looking down upon our culture. And even today, don't we see intellectuals sitting in their drawing rooms and clubs and whatnot. It's a fashion today to criticize Hinduism and criticize people, and criticize our scriptures, criticize God, criticize dharma, criticize everything, and live a life of one's own comfort and convenience. That's because of ignorance. So he said, my mission is that I want to inspire people. So he used to speak about the glories of the Sanatan Dharma, and he used to speak about various such aspects. So when he speaks on 10th chapter of the Gita, so many vibhutis of the Lord are there. So elaborately he would explain the vision of what the Vedas have for women and their life and how they should be living, etc., is a very important core part of the Vedic living. So if we have to revive Sanatan Dharma, it cannot happen unless the right vision comes back. And this vision has to be had both by women and by men, and it has to be implemented. Specifically, today's context, everybody has to put a lot of effort to bring this culture back to its glory and to live the Vedic way, so that there is so much more to achieve. Where we are stuck in what all we are thinking and fighting for rights and this and that, when the goal of life is to realize the self. Until we don't get these things in order, how will we realize the self? How will the whole Vedic culture get revived? Bharat was glorious because of this type of vision, the Vedic vision, what our ancestors have achieved. So we are working in our small way to revive Sanatan Dharma. So I felt that this is important and this knowledge must go to the people. And so I said, okay, let us reflect on this and learn and see how much we can apply in our daily lives and empower each other. So that was the main objective. All right. So we meet tomorrow. Om Asato ma Sadgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Mritam Gamaya. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.